Hey, how are you?
Hello.
Good,
Yeah, I'm
good
good.
to see you. Good to see you back in LA.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm
How's your
back.
How's your trip?
It was amazing. It was so many things happened. I lied down after that for 2 days, not communicating with anyone at home alone, recharging my social battery because I exhausted it. I've done the whole thing. Two big conferences, live demo on the stage, live panel with like big people, stand-up comedians, influencers, and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what you saw. You've been there. So there were like a VC dinner in New York and a lot of travels in between. So yeah,
I'm
it was
very proud of everything that you're doing. You and I have not been friends for a long time,
fun.
but for me, it's really interesting to see how you operate, how quickly you connect with people, how well you adapt to every situation. And even today, we're already recording, as you can see. I love I love everything that you're working on. But I'd love to go back a little bit in time, if you don't mind, and maybe you could
Of
tell
course.
me backstory. Where did you begin
Yeah.
your career, and what have you been working on in the past before we get to your current project?
I didn't realize that we were starting right away, so we're not discussing anything. I love that. I love that. Let's do it live. So yeah, there's no rehearsal. There's no questions prepared. There's like I just wanted to say that it's very raw. And with that said, how long in the past you want to go? Like let's pretend we're at Back in the Future movie.
I think for me, it'd be great to look back into your foundational time, like what
Mhm.
started foundationally making you who you are today. I mean, I look at the
Yeah.
painting that you're drawing behind you. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
while I was at your home for breakfast. So I want to
Yeah.
know, where did that come from? Where did that person sort of formulate into the individual that I know now?
Yeah. Great question. I would say my journey as like a human being started in Crimea, in Ukraine, when I just got into um, like a deep search of myself and like what's actually means to be me. And it took me some time because that self identity was a huge problem at that time. Self identity of me being Ukrainian who speaks Russian and of the Jewish descendants that I was not aware of. So my family was concealing the fact of us being Jewish because of Holocaust. My grandma is Holocaust survivor. She never talked about those things, and like that was never part of the conversation with my parents. And suddenly I learned at an age 12 that I'm Jewish, and I start to research that topic. And to the age 15 I found the program myself and applied to this program and won this kind of, I don't know, scholarship for 3 years college study in Israel. And the program called Nale, that means that you go before your parents go. Like it's kind of you doing aliyah, repatriation, before your parents kind of follow you. My parents followed me many years after, but I did it myself, and my parents were like not super happy about it. But also, I think that was the peak of wisdom of my communication with the parents was like my mom told me, "Hey, I'm against that. That you at age 15 go to religious boarding school in Israel with no friends or parents or relatives around that area, and learning new language and new culture and religion that is not part of your, value system. But I know that you will not ever forgive me if I won't let you. So go." And yeah, I end up. I think that was a very important part that forms me as a person. I went to religious boarding school in Israel in Haifa called the Yamin Or. It's very special place with very special people who built that village. And now there's a whole system of education that created in that in this environment. It's the book called The Village Way, and there's a system of education that build on many like experiential and interesting learnings. One of them is Janusz Korczak, the Jewish and like Polish Jewish educator who has a very sad and dramatic story. He saved his kids, although he was offered a forgiveness, and like kind of like you could try to save him, but he choose to go with the Jewish kids of his orphanage that he was run in that place. So a lot of values were there that are lead with example, change the environment. You like we changed some words in songs that were like for hundreds of years because they required a new message. There's requirements for new ideas, and that was a very special place. It turns me into who I am right now.
It's very interesting that your roots begun in a place that's away from home and
Hmm.
in place Israel, even though you did not know that you were part of that religion or that
Yeah.
sort of movement, you could say. I went on a birthright trip at the age of 27, and I sort of had that very similar experience where I was sort of learning more about my roots, so to
Hmm.
say, and really understanding maybe this religion a little bit better than what was brought to me through my parents, relatives, etc. Um,
Hmm.
did that change your perspective on how you observe this religion? Because I know one of the things that you practice, and I'm still looking forward to enjoying at your home, which is the Shabbat dinner. I know that
Yeah.
you do it very differently, but tell me a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mix. I was a religious, like I'm in the religious path for like 3 years. I choose a lot of unconventional, I would say, things to try. I was wearing kippah. I was doing 3 times prayers, or sometimes 2 times prayers, just because we had studies and not every day I could have doing minha, like a day prayer. I was shomer negiah, that basically I was not allowing to touch myself and touch other people of the opposite gender, and so there was like all conscious choices to kind of get involved and know what's going on there. But through the years, I kind of decided on very few. I know that it's called cherry picking, and I definitely did that. So I was cherry picking things that I want to preserve as a part of my identity and self identification as a Jewish. And that was basically not eating pork and talking and have a special time for Shabbos. And special time, by special times, I mean not specifically 39 works, limited lahot. There's the whole thing that you are not doing during the Shabbos, but mainly as a spiritual talk, a communication with your family when it's possible to kind of stick together. Not It was not working for years for me. It's not that I was preserving it like in a very big capacity. I trying to do that. So I do reserve some time for my spiritual work, some breath work, some creative work, and thinking and talking about important things. And I love this concept of magical time island, that what is described as Shabbos. And I think that's what also came from my school. It's the uh, like a frozen in time island that you can get on Friday night till Saturday night. That's something that times is not moving. Time is not there. You can get in and you get out in the same condition, in the same world. There's nothing changed besides your internal work, and that's the time for your internal work. And that's what I was basically really enjoying during that time. It was my like when I was close to religion. So I'm trying to resurrect it in some sort of way and make it work for me right now. And I have some, it's like kind of my own traditions basically.
What I love about what I've seen, and what I love about the tradition that you have put together is everybody is involved in the cooking process.
Yeah.
Two, you have your own style for cooking, and everything that
Mhm.
I've tried is incredibly well done. And I'm very picky with food, so I know when things are done well and very
Thanks.
creatively. But most importantly, the different people that you constantly invite and the conversations that I am assuming, based on my limited exposure to it, that you guys are having, and the different perspectives that every person that you bring into this event
Mhm.
brings. How do you curate that? Is that by chance, or is there a particular process that you personally go?
No, it's super interesting because I rely on the weekly chapter. So it's like you don't need to go for like you. It's like a random machine that talk like you can ask like name me your three topics, but then you have Torah that you can ask for this particular what's the chapter dedicated this week, and there's always a message for chapter. Like there's not even if you don't read it fully, like the whole chapter, there's always like a one essence that you were talking. Let's say we had this dinner on Pesach, and the Passover was the holiday of freedom, and we start to talk about freedom as the main topic and who experienced freedom, how we experience freedom. It's freedom for each of us individually is very different from the freedom as a community. And that's where things are very different because freedom, communal freedom, means rules and restrictions. It's that when you're talking about individual freedom, you're like, I can do whatever I want. If many people doing whatever they want, it's an anarchy. And when you're agreeing to be free as a community, you're agreeing on certain rules. So rules and more strict rules apply to the most kind of the biggest celebration of freedom is making sense now, because you don't eat bread, you don't eat certain products, you even more strict on certain things during that time, meaning that freedom comes with limitations and with like self-control, self-discipline, and that's where freedom is actually comes from, not from doing whatever you want. And so such topics are kind of inspired by Parashat Shavua or by like weekly chapter, and then we just go and talk about this with non-Jewish people. That's a very important part as well, because we invited a lot of people who are not of Jewish descendants. They are not part of this culture, and we make it and transform it into very non-religious, very secular, very like kind of philosophical and general questions. And I do believe that is important because that's how you know share the light.
I love the openness of what you're describing, because one of the interesting opportunities I had while being in Boca Raton, Florida this past week is I
Mhm,
actually went to a synagogue that I did not belong to,
mhm,
and randomly just thought, "Hey, let me walk into the services." Me and my
mhm.
dad went one day, which we were a day early, and they were just doing I guess, the washing or whatever that process is. So we decided, okay, that's not our thing. We're gonna skip that part. And then the following day, I went by myself, and they were completely sold out. So it was a membership only type of organization. And I felt for a little bit, just for a minute, I felt like, it's interesting. Religion should be like an open thing, right? Should be
Yeah.
something that is welcoming, something. And I felt a little bit off, even though, again, I'm not very religious, but it was one time that I saw it. Maybe I'll give it an opportunity and check it out. But I love your concept, and I love the fact that you make it so open, and the kind of people that show up always brings sort of this energy that seems to get you thinking and moving in
It's
doing things.
interesting because Judaism is literally a closed religion. It's not
Correct.
meant to be open. It's not missionary religion like Christianity. It's literally not, not that open. It's actually quite closed and quite snobbic. Sometimes it's quite like kind of distanced. But yeah. So if I would choose religion, I would go with Judaism. Right now, I think I'm on my own path with some respect to things that I consider my heritage.
I love that. Now, why don't we maybe shift a little bit off that topic and into the business side of things? So, talk to
Mhm,
me about your career and how you began your career, and what you have been working on in the past prior to the
mhm.
current project.
I think that's you mentioned my paintings, and that's where I started my career. That's like a very smooth path towards the career, my career and professional development. I won some scholarships. I was a scholarship kid. I was always wearing one scholarship after another. I think I had more than 4 or 5 different scholarships during my kind of educational education. One of them was with pretty famous Israeli artist, Dror Goldberg, and he has amazing works in Ein Hod near the Haifa. It's like considered to be like a village of artists, artistic village with like musicians and sculptors and artists. And I spent a lot of times in the studio with this person and start to paint and start to work conceptually and creatively, and that led to my career choices as well. I went to have several educations, and one a master degree in arts and fine arts education as a designer, as a book graphic illustrator, and a special course of contemporary art and history of arts. And so that was like, I tried to absorb that, even though I had some attempts to go to Technion and study physics, and there was like also a big decision to make. And in the end of the day, I came back to Ukraine and got my education both in Ukraine and in Israel at the same time. I was work basically studying in parallel,
Wow.
and that led to a certain kind of career chain that is very not uh,
True.
obvious and traditionally. I would say you start as a designer, and in Western world is like you can just go as a designer for all your career. For some reason, on in this new emerging markets of CIS countries at that time, it was very interesting to grow as a designer. And like next step, you know that you're like, okay, I'm a good designer now, I will become an art director. And this is very different path. It's just not, it's not like you're growing into senior designer. You have to be senior designer, the head
Right.
of design, but you just go and I will be an art director and I will do communication and advertising and strategies. And then you go to creative direction. You lead these strategic workshops, and they're not very creative. And you do ideation as well, and you do and you found a company and an idea. So that's a very strange path I choose as a creative director and art director at kind of global networks like BBDO and Saatchi, and I made some career in there. I got some international awards, got spotted by BBDO, got hunted, moved from Kiev to Moscow. That sounds now weird, but that was times where it was
It was a
pretty natural. Yeah.
it was a different world, and it seemed like an upgrade, right? To go.
Yeah. It seemed like an upgrade. It was like, okay, that's that exactly what I wanted. And I worked on big accounts with PepsiCo, Gillette, Mercedes. We did some commercials with Bruce Willis, with some big brands, and it was a lot of fun. At some point, I won like maybe 4 or 5 biggest kind of clients to BBDO in just one season. And as an award, I was sent to this kind of like an interesting um it's called BBDO University. It's a place where you go to like a chateau near Paris, and there's vast creative directors, strategic directors, visionaries, futurists. There was like an editor of Wired magazine or something, like all kind of interesting people. And we got locked there in this beautiful place for several weeks talking about strategy and what's next in advertising and just what's next. And we came up with certain ideas and values, and I saw how people doing their work hands on strategy and communication. And I got some revelations there, came back to Moscow, and I was like, hey, we should do things differently. It's just, I believe that there's a way to do things in a specific way. And I didn't find any support on that, and I just started my own agency with
I
my
was
co.
about to say unfortunately, but maybe it was fortunate that they did
Yeah,
not.
yeah. It was at that moment I was like, "Hey, why are you not listening to me? I definitely know what to do." And that's always a question when you figure it out some little thing. You don't understand why everybody else is just so obvious. It becomes so obvious to you that it seems like everybody is on the same stage and the same page with you, but it's not specifically a truth. And what's going on right now with founding teams and with a lot of founders, they're always ahead of time. They're always ahead of time. But when you're doing and building it, it feels for you that you already missed the train. You're like, oh my God, it's so obvious why not everybody's doing it right now. It's the same feeling I have with my current project. It's literally like you ahead of the time just because you thought you cracked it, and you've now in this bubble of things that's very obvious for you, but not obvious for rest of, in this case, clients and venture capitalists. But in that case, it was just rest of the world. So yeah, I came back. I tried to move. and make changes inside the corporation, and then I just start to build my own company.
And tell me, so this is what year approximately, just so we have some sort of
Uh, it's like 2012.
okay.
So yeah,
So this is
2013. I
so this,
started my.
this is way before you even planned to come to United States, I'm
Oh
assuming.
yeah, it was way before that. I always thinking about it, but I could not like just figure it out the way to do it. And I started to build. Although I was traveling a little bit, I was volunteering in the United States when I was 16 or 17. I worked with several youth organizations, so I knew what I'm kind of like. I envisioned that, but at some point it was mainly in my kind of dreams, and a lot of my dreams come true, but as like a very clear plan. So I didn't have a plan at that time. And
But
mhm.
you were visualizing it,
Yeah,
nevertheless. But what's
that's
interesting is
how.
that a lot of people who venture on their own or choose to venture on their own are usually not still back in Ukraine or Russia. These are, risky sort of steps to make. What made you believe in yourself so much that you were able to take that first step?
Uh, it's interesting because I read this kind of article that explains this from the perspective of genome. So there's certain like a genetic a deviation that makes a very clear amount of people that were born, like let's say you have like 100% people living in this of population living in the area. So there's always like a specific same number of these people that have this deviation. They will leave the place. They will figure it out, and they will feel like this is too small. It's not working for them. They feel like they are not in the right in that place, and they just go and have a risk aversity and fearlessness to make this thing. It's genetic thing. It's not even like a personal thing. Of course,
I can
sometimes you have a
I can
personal.
relate. I can totally
Yeah,
relate. Me leaving Chicago after living there for 24 years and coming to LA was actually part of that time. But it was difficult to explain that to your loved ones
yeah.
who were looking at you and saying,
Why?
"Why?"
Yeah, and there, my why was at that point. I start to be very into art and specifically into contemporary art. And my logical explanation of it that was not really relevant was that I don't have anyone to consume what I do. So I don't have people that understands contemporary art who's working in that space. It was very academic, very like boring and not very interesting. And young people were not finding their own language. They were like criticized, and it just like didn't feel like a good environment. And like, why to struggle against this kind of weird, system if it doesn't work? So I tried to figure it out. That was my first step for when I moved to Israel. From then, I moved from Kiev to Moscow, back from Israel, and then started my career in Kiev, and then moved to Moscow. After several times and several shifts and several migrations, you know exactly what's next step will look like. So you have no doubt that you will succeed because you did it 4 times. This is my fifth immigration.
Wow.
And when I go there, I was like, okay, in 1 year will be tough. Second year will be interesting, and I start to feel at home. Third year, you'll feel like you belong to the place. You have all the friends and all their like whatever. Everything will be figured out, and then you matter of your success is matter of your ambitions. So you know that you will figure it out, and that's you have no doubts. If you did it 4 times, there's no reasons to have doubt or to have hesitations about if it will work or not. Of course it will. It's clear. It's just not something you have to prove. It's like how and how big your success will be. That's something of a different conversation. But
Right.
that's what gave me a confidence to move.
So when did you make that move to United States, and what prompted?
Um, Yeah, it was a very. I love this story because I was building my company. We grew up to like 65 professionals servicing Bacardi, Diageo, L'Oreal, Yandex, and many other companies. We had some contracts with headquarters in Europe, like GTI in Geneva, and we had some really interesting success. And the story of like my um, building cultures and building interesting ventures was began in data agency where I spent like almost 10 years. It was like 9 years. And we had the specific things in culture, and I was surprised to read that manifesto of Netflix and finding 60%, like 70% resemblance of what I built, not from the business perspective, from cultural perspective and values. And at that time, we had female leadership in the junior partners, like at least like 50-50 representation. We had some other cultural kind of like very not traditional for the area we're coming from, set up of values where we were encouraging conversation, encouraging arguments, encouraging like not having and playing like a boss card and things like that. So a lot of communication, a lot of openness. um, uh, and that's how creativity was striving. And to make thing work, I went to in 2016, after several public speeches in Georgia, and I met some really nice people who were building their startups, their technical companies. And one of this company was Cobe. I don't know if you remember. There was like a competitor of Vine. It was like a short videos with music and kind of repeating itself with a lot of
I
memes and
remember it
humor.
very, very much. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so good. And I met founders, and they just one of the first companies, Russian speaking founders went to YC in 2016. YC, I mean, that at YC.
Way early, before it was
Yeah,
very popular, or even
yeah. And I was like, I do advertising, but I want to learn everything you guys doing. And I asked founders to kind of join them for like a month or two, just live in Palo Alto. I rented a little room nearby, and we worked from garage. I mean it, like it was literally a garage turned into the office in Palo Alto. So it was the classic, setup, like really, really exactly like it was shown in some movies, and this is story of some of the companies we all know. And it was a fun time because at that time they also shared a room in their building, in their house, with a guy who was in Stanford MBA, and they were building and just kind of finished the graduate YC and kind of started their thing. And I learned everything from them, what's going on, and I got so excited. And I came back after months or two, like spending there, uh, and I started to prepare my business that already were like pretty decent to the moment when I leave operational work. I will prepare all the processes, and I will get their the partners or and like prominent people who were in my team. We agreed with my co-founder to make them junior partners. We made the whole settlement, like a set of people that were compensating the things that I was putting to the table and my co-founder was putting to the table. And we made this like junior partnership of 4 people that were running the business operationally. We had some really nice processes in place for in the time I will not be there. And it took me a year to make all of those changes and set up and choose the people that will run the business and make the processes work. So we work in parallels. At some point, I was a chief creative officer, and I had another creative director who we worked like on the same capacity on equal rights. That made it possible to work to see that we can coexist and see that this person can actually take my role. And then I left and I got my O1 visa, and I grabbed my family at that time, and I moved to US, and immediately start to kind of sell and build this kind of like a structure that in my in in my future kind of like a vision had like a very successful kind of business plan, but I failed, of course.
Before we talk about that failure, because I think it's important, let's make sure I follow. So you have an agency, you had corporate clients already, you decided to come
Yeah,
to Alto, you built out a structure that would support you being remote essentially, and
yeah.
somebody that would support the day-to-day operations. Talk to me about um, what was it like to let go and trust sort of the business to continue to operate when you're not there.
Oh, I love that. I love this thing. It's unfortunately it was not me who invented this metaphor. I think it was my co-founder at Data. He said, "Imagine you're a Tyrannosaurus Rex, a T-Rex. You have a huge smart and scary head with a lot of teeth, people are afraid of you. You can even do stuff because you have like a strong legs, but you have a tiny, tiny hands. You cannot move things. You cannot do stuff. You cannot actually take things and put from one table to another. So you basically have to learn to delegate and trust. And you have to know the percentage of how it should be better than you, but most of the time we're not in a perfect world. It could be like 70% of what you would do,
Correct.
and that's you put your own threshold. Some people say I will only hire people better than me and everything, and then they are kind of like doing 110%. In my case, at that moment, I think they were doing some work much better than me. Sometimes they were like 70, 80%, and that threshold was fine, and I was like, okay, that's all right. If that's a 50 and they are losing like every pitch and tender with our clients, then there's a problem. But overall, if that works for like 80%, let's say, I would be happy. And they have the opportunity to grow, and at least we know what KPIs and OKRs to put to this person to for the kind of to set the growth strategy. So yeah, well, that was mainly that was my thing, was to first to remove ego from your communication and from your kind of way of doing business, and just kill it. Just it's not helping. And then you trust, that builds trust, that builds that you don't obsessive. There's a very specific, and specifically in my profession, there's specific people who are holding to this ego part, and they are great. There's some of them are like brilliant creative directors, and because they're so brilliant, they will never give away this opportunity to show their brilliance.
It's part of
Uh,
what drives them to be as great as you
Yes,
are.
yes. So I was not on that kind of people. I would only put myself when there's a trouble, when you need to have like an extra idea and thing like that. And I could still have ability to save the day in some points, but I would never do it on purpose, or I never felt bad about not doing it. So yeah,
So talk to
remove
me
the
about
ego.
talk to me about why it failed before we jump into what you did next.
Yeah, yeah. So that's interesting because the failure came from us knowing only one possible market, because I was only growing on emerging markets, markets that do not have competition, literally do not, like, if you're young and have an idea and have some thoughts, thoughts, and you have an energy, you'll probably succeed with whatever you do, if it's like a coffee shop, if it's like a advertising agency, or like literally anything, because the market was
You
open.
powered through it with all of this
Yes,
energy and
there's
intensity.
there's nothing there. There's people who might need that, and you'll find those people, and you like do few attempts and stuff like that. It's much easier than when you go to the market that everything is set up for years before. I mean, 50 years ago and like 70 years ago, some businesses had relationship for like dozens and dozens of years, and that's the setup. And when you saw some markets, like I came in LA, I was not only considering Los Angeles like as a place to be, and I saw about like 50 agencies that were servicing entertainment industry. Not 49, not 41, 51, like it's just 50. And some of them are very specialized on just trailers. Some of them marketing campaigns around movies with static images like posters and billboards. Some of them doing social media. Some of them are doing like whatever, like experiential marketing. And they're very specific, very, narrowish and like kind of dedicated to certain things. And when you open the 51, the market is actually kind of selected their winners. They're already okay. They're okay. They don't need you. Then you go and say, okay, I will dump the price, and the market just don't understand this concept. On the marketing, like for the consumers, it's my work, but for businesses, it's just, hey, there's 200 people sitting on this floor, and you're doing a website, and the website is, I don't know, $60,000, and you ask them how much you did for your previous like version of a website, and they say 120, and you say half price. I'll do your half price of it. And then they say, hey, their half price of this budget of this project is this one day of work of these people here in this on this floor. So if you will be late, and we are like known for like amazing designs and amazing things that we've done, like I think that part of the world we came from actually really progressive on design, on a lot of like things that kind of on the aesthetic side, but processes and being on time, not one of the strongest qualities.
It's not the strongest.
So
The
yeah,
creative is there, but the
yeah,
functionality is gone.
yes, exactly. And that's where I was like, if I will be just late for one day, the whole value of me like damping this price, it makes no sense. And then and they already have trusted partner, they already know that they are not late, they are already delivered results, and it can be like a horrible design website, it can be really poor outdated solution, but it worked because the market growing for 10 years, so they don't have a problem, they just growing, they don't care what design website they have, they don't care what branding they have, they just business, and they just growing 10%, like 12%
And
a
they
year
can
on a year.
improve over time, but they need to be delivering to the market on
Super
time.
quality. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that was my biggest thing, because we were like, hey, look at my portfolio. No one in your like pool right now have such strong, trendy, fancy works like we do. Like we know typography, we know like 3D, we know how to make it look so glossy, so fancy, so nice, and it's just no need it. There's no people who consume that part, and that was biggest thing to realize, that the pricing dumping and the kind of the like the market occupation and market capacity is already done. There's you need to, and that's why we watch those movies when they're the guy is like, I was a partner in this company. I stand up and I leave this company and I take half of my clients with me. That was not clear for me. I was not ever saw this thinking, but this is the only way to start to like a new thing in developed part in the developed market. And the other part was that these the people we were talking to, we work with like Fortune 500 clients in UCIS countries. And when you go to when we started here, I signed 15 clients in the first 10 months. I was thinking I'm doing like a successful work. Those company were mainly like a small businesses, like a medium businesses. They were not the same in the same budget range that I was like hoping. They were paying as my Moscow clients, but I didn't have as much as resources to serve them.
Correct.
And I realized that the reason why Silicon Valley and California was the basically their first application of venture capital. And the venture capital was invented like not in like kind of the 70s, but it was even before that. And the venture capital was here because when you do everything right, you need capital to start. You need an investment, and it doesn't work if you don't have it. And I would realize that was biggest mistake, was we didn't invest in our. The idea was to open up the agency here, the same name, and just kind of grow as the branch of our, like our headquarters. But that didn't work, mainly because um, yeah, we didn't have any investment to
The
for the
resources
market.
were not there, unfortunately.
Yeah,
That's one of the things that I did early on, is actually have a presence in Glendale and have an office for larger clients to actually visit
yeah.
and see. That was a key strategic sort of approach. And I know a lot of people have tried to work their way around it, but unfortunately, in this culture and this environment, it's a must have. So tell me emotionally, how did that feel? I mean, it feels like a failure the way you're describing it. But for me personally, I see that as an incredible opportunity that opened up a lot of doors for you thereafter. Is it not?
I was devastated. I lost four ten like pitches in a row. I remember them all, four of them in 1 month. I lost Shell, new brand launch. I lost Apple Music, kind of a campaign. They were considering us seriously because our Yandex Music experience, and I lost. Some satellite app for TikTok, like for editing app. And the last one was Affair.com. They're also like a big brand for like car rental that turned into like Uber slash Lyft car rental. We lost all of them, not because we had bad works or we charged too much or something. They were not clear who I am. And I was pretending to be a 40 people agency at that moment. I was invoicing, I was doing my own like bookkeeping, I was doing proposals, sales, strategic workshops, and I actually conducted about 7 to 10 projects at that
Wow.
in 10 months, and
Wow.
we had like about 15 kind of clients in the first kind of year, and the checks was too small, so I was basically doing everything on myself, and I realized that I need to make a bigger clients, and I lost all of the big clients opportunities, and it didn't feel like an opportunity. It felt like I'm crashing. So I was supported well by having a business in there. So I still have my dividends, some payments, and I was still kind of officially running the business in Moscow. And I was like, okay, what's next then? I cannot continue doing that. I had 300 new people in my contact list. I was partying hard, and I have a newborn baby at that moment, and it was like a really interesting way to hustle during that time. And I was lucky enough to be introduced to Snap, and I started to think about it as the introduction for like this, working strategically with them. And the idea was, okay, everything will go right when I will, uh, I would kind of like an approval, or to have like a confirmation from the market that I'm legit. Uh,
Reinforcement. Reinforcement.
yeah,
Reinforce
yeah,
of what you believed in yourself now coming
yeah.
from external.
Yeah. I needed like an external reinforcement, an external confirmation that I'm legit, because I did look like a alien from another planet. In what you need to know from comparison to other markets, whatever, if you had any experience abroad, it doesn't count. If you had any like cool, amazing ideas or campaigns, if it was not like a Super Bowl commercial that everyone saw, then it doesn't count. So you basically an alien that says that it does something, but they have no trust in that. So you need to prove that you're not an alien in the first place. So I thought about Snap opportunities to prove that I'm not an alien, and I was introduced to creative director who was a nice French guy. I was introduced by Lieberman's into that community. I met a few times, and then I passed like about 7 or 8 interviews.
What was that
Um,
experience like? First of all, interviewing for Snapchat, but also sort of being in that ethos.
It was interesting because the team was there are some Ukrainian and Russian speaking teams at Snap, but I was where I was going. There was no one there. Like it was not our community. It was not our friends. It was absolutely a separate marketing department. Its role was basically I didn't know that yet, but the role was basically your manager is chief marketing officer, and their manager is Evan Spiegel. So there's a very short chain of command. And I didn't know that at that point. I had a global creative director who hired me as a creative director, and I left in 4 days after I started my
That's an interesting way to welcome
yeah,
you.
yeah. It was just like, and he was like, "Yeah, I went to Apple. Sorry." And then I was kind of playing that role. And there were a few global creative directors during my time at Snap. But interesting part was that Snap allowed me to still run my business, and it was not considered to be a conflict of interest. We actually have official investigation, and they came up with like, yeah, if you don't do ER and you're not represented on this market particularly, so go for it. And
Yeah, as
that
long as
was
you're not competing directly with them, I think they're open to stuff like that. Yeah.
And so for like a couple years, I was creative director at Snapchat for AR and B2B marketing and spectacles. And same time, I was running data agency at Moscow, and still helping on some projects. Not very much involved, but it was a nice feeling.
I got this gut feeling that even though you were at one of the coolest companies that was doing one of the coolest projects, it felt like you had an itch. What was that itch?
The itch started a little bit later, but the first time I needed just to accommodate. I was 10 months in this country. I didn't know all the cultural differences. I had a maximum diversity in my team, like unimaginable. Like, I mean, have everyone from every minority represented in my 24 people that I was managing. And I had to learn what's the thing, what can I say? I had a lot of misperceptions and concept that I brought with me with my culture. Even though I consider myself like a global person and I consider myself like educated on some sort, but I had terrible thoughts. And it was like it took me some time just to accommodate and just to understand what's going on. Um, my itching starts to in a year. I realized that I don't want to do advertising, and I need to shift from marketing to product slash like tech, basically a tech part of it. And I start to kind of like prepare myself to shifting gears from a marketing person to strategic product person, and work with engineers, work with product more. And I start to do product marketing, get involved in product marketing. So whenever new tech is developed in at Snap, we were marketing the stack, and many people who created like, oh, we have this ML that recognize all the objects around you. I was like, oh, great. Who needs that? And they were like, no, you don't understand. We just solve this like computer. It was like our early days computer reasoning and computer vision kind of like solutions, and run on GPU of your mobile phone. Like it's kind of cool. And it's, yeah, I just developed that. It can track any, like it's a vase, it's a chair, and like, oh, amazing.
That's
And
the
then
technical side of it.
yeah, and they're
But
so excited. That's the whole point. The technical people are so excited about
correct.
uh, things working.
But from a visual standpoint, what's interesting, and many people may not know, that Snapchat was the first one that delivered stories. It wasn't
Not
Instagram.
not just that, deleting self-erasing messaging, privacy that was built in the very beginning, in the very core of this product, and that's why it was so good for sexting. But in this case, the privacy was in their DNA of the product, and I do think that there's a lot of good stuff there, and their innovation came from Snap. Like a lot of innovation came from Snap. That the
Filters
things that
came from Snap. I know
built.
Libermans were
Yeah,
working on partially
yeah,
that on mobile as well. Uh,
yeah.
I think what's interesting for me is that even though we talk about that itch, and that itch also happened to me a couple of times throughout my career, that itch is something that never goes away, and something that is within you. It's like in your soul. So talk to me
It's
about your feeling about wanting to do other things
it's a
in the product side.
it's a bug. It's like somebody bites you once, and and it's itching because you know how it's to be. How the again we're talking about this word freedom, and you feel like this. You're like a slave of your business for sure. But in opposite of it, you also feel a lot of freedom that I was never experienced, and I don't know how else you can get to this feeling. So that was impressive when I felt that I think that I validated myself on the market and I need to build something on my own. However, I was derailed from that immediately. So I didn't have any resources to make that move. So, and again, a lot of things comes from confidence as well. So my itching started from like important part of it was like I tried to be like everyone else on the market, because you come from another world and you want to speak like everyone here, you want to use the same terminology, trying to raise your accent, to raise some of part of your personality to match the system. And it's my thing. It was a big problem for me. And until I realized, in the moment I realized that actually whatever I thought my disadvantages are, it's actually my advantages.
I think that's
You,
a very interesting point that you bring up because a lot of people focus on looks and being able to sort of be part of a clique of some sort or based on whatever is currently modern and in and trendy. But a lot of times it's your uniqueness is what makes you truly special. And
you brand it
no,
yourself, like you brand it by your brand. And then when you talk, when you have this, imagine that every person who born and raised in California speaks in a certain waves of like intonation, and every other person who heard this hundreds and thousands time don't listen to it in just 10 minutes. And imagine you have a person who speaks in a very different intonation and you never know where the sentences begins and where it ends. So they start to listen to you more attentively, like 20-30% more attentive than to their fellows. Then you use a weird word order, you have a weird accent, some funny, so you use and brand your speech with weird words and choices of words, and that's all become your really powerful moments. And I saw it not on myself, and unfortunately in the beginning I saw it on other creative directors who came from other worlds, from other countries that do not have a communal and general low self-esteem, and we do have that in our embedded in our culture. So then they were like branded themselves, and they were not worrying about people do not understand them. They were like pushing this thing towards. So they start to brand their speech. They're being more bright and vivid on that side. That one thing led to another that makes you confident, and you don't start to you stop pleasing, you stop pretending, you stop kind of fitting in and using your part that you're not fitting in to actually be bold and not to fit in and just be there, who are like with certain level of acceptance of yourself. And
creating your own genuine path.
yeah, and it's very genuine, and whatever is genuine is accepted well. And I love that when you don't have ego and you are genuine and authentic, if you will say, I don't know if can you curse on your podcast?
You can do whatever you want here. This is
So you can say go fuck yourself with no ego and with very clear like setting of your boundaries, and no person in the world will ever be offended by that. And this is interesting because you can do the same words to another person having some egoistic or some problematic motivation for that, and you will have the whole consequences of this phrase. But when it's authentic and genuine, when it comes from like your personal boundary or from your kind of confidence, it just works. Really hard to explain that. But yeah,
so tell me where that itch brought you. So what was the itch that got you out of Snap?
I left Snap to join Reality Labs at Meta, and I already had some experience of launching AR spectacles with near to eye display, and it was like such a fun project. We got like a creative residence for like best technical artists who created their own experiences for spectacles. And a lot of things that were like showing that demos were showed this year in Connect from like with Orion that cost like $100,000 according to last year. Now it's $700. It's it's interesting. It was a lot of fun working on that. Also, there was a lot of like technical and design work. I was a little bit scared to join that team. It was not marketing. It was not any of like disciplines that I were aware of. It was a creative engineering team with engineers and technical artists who built products directly, and products that on device that's not yet launched,
Correct.
in the infrastructure that not yet built, using operational system that not yet finished. And things like that is very, very abstract and very interesting, and you have to think about design in a very different perspective. Like, oh, let's choose the most saving energy colors and the most saving energy design solutions to make thing look amazing, but also save battery of the device. And so this half engineer, half creative work, half strategic GTM kind of thinking. And we created a lot of experience there. And I had some offers at that time from Apple and Niantic. And I remember this thought that I was in my 30s, 35, 36, something. And I was feeling that how long I have to verify myself, how long I have to prove to my classmates in Crimea, I don't know where I come from, that I'm like, that I am, have some value or have, how long you have to prove something to someone. And you realize that you don't need to prove something to someone, but also you have a mission and you have an idea. And I had my mission very clear for set at my head when I was 15, or maybe even earlier. I know why I came here. I know what I have to do, and there's a certain way to build up to that moment. But after a certain age, you have to think about: Are you going? Are you on your mission? Are you still tracking? Are you following your goals and things like that? And for myself, for me, it was very important to realize that I cannot go back. I cannot go to another like this opportunity. I can do contract work here and there, but this is like that's something you build something big and you have a mission to make it happen. So I started a company with four other people, some from Snap, from Nvidia, from other companies, and we had some brilliant idea that turned into brilliant products. We fundraised it around 3 million for that, and we built it to a certain point very fast, like in 7-8 months of operations. We got close seed round and some clients that we found. Like I was responsible for clients. I was responsible for product. I was responsible for training the model and fine tuning it with my CTO. I was responsible for a golden standard for training set. And golden standard training set means that you can delegate whatever you want, but certain things, if you train the model to be like compassionate, you need to have compassionate person in there, in the team. Same here. If we were to have a cultural sensitive layer that we were building, you need to have someone who understands what's sensitive, what's not, where you break the rule. It was a great idea, I think, but I was obsessed with IPs, and I was obsessed after discovering the problem at Meta. Actually, I was doing this. I told you that story. I was doing the game, and I created the whole tech art using AI, and I discovered that their IP problem and kind of ownership problem was a big thing. And my legal team was not allowing me to post things even internally because we didn't know who owns this thing and who checks this thing. So I came up with this idea, and it's that the bug that was kind of scratching. I was building this company and we were successfully moving with some kind of tension, of course, in the team that happened to be basically like a separation point. And we separated the ways, and I was in Bali, and I came like formulate this idea of IP infringement model that basically will detect intellectual property on different assets that are generated or created by humans or generated in AI. And that's where I started the copy sites, and that's where I was like, okay, now I have to just go there and build this thing
But
for
before
sure.
you describe what CopySight is all about,
Yeah,
I want everybody to take a look at this website and just see,
yeah,
even from the get go, this is something that I'll be helping sort of get to a perfect state.
mm,
You and I have been talking about it for a long time, but literally have not had time to allocate some resource of my
mhm,
energy to it. But I'm planning to do that this weekend now that I'm back from Florida. But already looking at the site and seeing the visual stamp that you put on it,
yeah.
and the different elements that you put on it, I think speaks for itself in terms of what your style is all
Mm,
about, but also how unique your vision is for even presenting the product that typically, I mean, when I think of IP, I'm thinking legal, like something
yeah,
very structured, very formal. This is
yeah, yeah, yeah,
completely not that. Talk to me about what CopySight is and what you guys do, just so we have sort of a baseline.
yeah. I would only ask you to kind of maybe like use the from resolution for the, I don't know if it's will help, but actually it's quite nice when it's full screen, maybe. I
I'll
don't
take
know.
care. Yeah, I'll take care of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, what is the with CopySight is just first to market copywriting solution for AI generated content. What it means that when people using generative AI for creating assets, I'm sorry, and creating assets for their businesses for commercial application, there's two big problems that stop uh, about 75 companies we talked to from applying commercial use of generative AI. What happened is that there's two largest kind of conversations happening right now in the legal world. What um, what if I tell you that everything you generate in AI is not protected by copyright and by intellectual property law? Uh, that's the first problem, basically.
Why don't
If
we
it's not,
stop for a second because I want to make sure people understand that.
yeah,
So I create a game.
yeah,
In that game, there is a character. That
yeah,
character is digital. That
yeah,
character potentially may change the way they look, feel, whatever, but the
yeah.
core character is created. What happens thereafter with that IP?
So it's technically not even IP. It's a public domain. It's a public domain character that anyone can take and monetize, do whatever they want because there's no limitations and restrictions on that. The thing is that copyright law only protects works of human. If you cannot prove that it's a human work or it having significant human involvement, basically it means that it's public domain and you cannot protect it. And from that, very naturally came several ideas. So, okay, if I generate something, can I be sure that this is not based on some IP that already was in a training set? And when I'm saying training set, that means that every model you use that is not considered to be clean model, even some clean models, they have data sets that are full of IPs. And when we're saying IPs, it mean protected assets created by people, companies, and owned by people and companies that do not want or didn't license it to you to use. And you have no right basically to create something very similar to that or, even inspired from that sometimes. The thing is that you have to share um, in that case is just have to be checked by some sort of monitor that will identify if there's any potential risk of IP infringement before you even go forward. And we're only talking about commercial use. We're talking about agencies. So my belief is that as a creator, I create things constantly. I play with different tools, and I want people to play with as many tools as they can. Right now, almost 70% of YC startups are using unlicensed Chinese models because they have no censorship, they have no kind of like limits, and they trained on everything possible founded in the internet. And so, similar to large VLMs and large language models, we're seeing that same thing happens with them. They just use all their possible IPs. Now, when you have a narrow cluster of information and you kind of narrowed it down by your prompt, you have a low of high risk of getting to a certain point of resemblance with existing IPs. Let's say if you type in Dolly something like generate me a Punisher from Marvel, they will say no, it's copyrighted. If you say generate me a wearing all black, always angry superhero that revenges his family, you probably will get like a Punisher, and there will be no doubts, and we can run it with CopySight, and we'll see that 90%, 95% of resemblance with their original IP. So that means this model had to look to a certain cluster of information. And if data set is not broad enough, it will generate not a generic thing, it will generate something kind of very specific. And you then at risk of commercial IP infringement. And for us, it's an opportunity to help to use AI in a certain way of ethical and integrity and ethics and integrity. But also, there's a huge opportunity to just to make Wild West last wild. and make it work for everyone, not just for big corporations, not just for you know left l- like loose artist who wants just to use everyone,
Individual creators, yeah.
individuals creators in this kind of in this environment, but also to create an infrastructure where everybody get paid, everybody get attribute, and companies feel safe in using those APs. And that's kind of talking about mission. That's exactly where it comes to my mission. When we have an era of AI coming in, and it's clear that it won't go away. It's clear that we have a lot of technologies that will change the way we're doing what we do. But on the other side, we also have a lot of people who will left out of the job. They will left out of certain, things that used to do, and now you need to find a place for those people. And I specifically want to focus on creators because I do think that they're a very vulnerable group of people. At the same time, I belong to one, and I wanted to say that, hey, why not to build an infrastructure that will protect creators in the future when things will go south, probably, and everything they were doing can be done by AI. But we still need to operators. We still need to have more data, more talented IPs, and more pieces of imagination of different people to put together and train next, and the next VLM to get best results.
So let me be a devil's advocate for just a second, if you don't mind. So I
Sure,
am a
sure.
creator that created something, and somehow AI is able to index it. In my mind, it seems that if I created something, I want people to use it. I want
Mm.
people to edit it. I want it to spread throughout the web and become viral. Look at Hello Kitty, right?
Yeah.
As an example. Talk to me where you guys come in and help
It's
drive.
interesting. So Hello Kitty is the most violated and kind of ripped off IP in the world, and then the next comes anime and manga that is like Japan loses $15 billion year over year on anime and manga ripoffs and like kind of fakes and things like what OpenAI did with Studio Ghibli. Things like that is happening constantly, and we're standing on on this one clear mission where if you got attributed and you have we invented the scoring for this reasons, and I'm obsessed with the scoring. There's a lot of companies that what they do is they putting number to a thing that were not measured before, like credit score and FICO and all those things that we have in this environment right now. There's other companies that just do the scoring, and so we creating scoring. We invented it, and we are very like on the mission to make it persistent and clear to score how much of your IP was used to generate certain outputs. And whenever commercial firm, agency or studio or production house creating something based on your IP on a certain level, you can get paid automatically using different protocols. We are in negotiation right now with the Story Protocol. We're talking with other companies to make sure we can actually register their IP, pay for their IP based on our scoring, and make sure it's protected if someone else creating something similar, derivative art, or actually a copy of it, we can identify, make sure the client that uses that knows who's the author, who they need to attribute or pay. And as a future, an upcoming feature is a payment system through smart contracts to deliver payments to everyone in this ecosystem. That's where I think that we're fulfilling our mission.
I agree with you, and I'm very excited about this project because I think there's a lot of value in it. Talk to me about some of the latest news that has been around IP infringement and
Oh,
some of the things that's happening, just so people have some sort of reference, because this is very niche, right?
yeah,
But it's now
yeah.
becoming mainstream conversation.
Yeah, yeah, as I love to do that because I was always like hoping for some luck, like every business, every momentum is a lot of luck that is not basically you can do whatever you want. There's a lot of things you can push forward, but the luck is something is very like not very clear how to attract it to that point. So at some point, I said, I need a scandal. I need an IP scandal. And around May, OpenAI ripped off Studio Ghibli IPs and made a style that they even call Studio Ghibli, thinking that that style is not copyrightable.
I
So
used it, believe it or not. That was
yeah,
the very
yeah,
first AI
everyone
image that I created.
everyone used that. Like I said, millions of people. That actually impacted valuation of OpenAI. And it means that what they did, they used IP of someone's creation to make their company more valuable, and used it commercially because they have subscriptions and there have been people using it. So they provided value and grew up the customer base by having this feature, by having this style, basically meaning that they commercially use the IP of a person who was not even licensing, but they was like against that. Like Hayao Miyazaki spent 80 years in this kind of like perfecting his style, making unique, beloved movies that are piece of art each, to just everyone utilize it whenever they want and however they want. We recorded.
And most people not even knowing who he is.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the other part. So fans were devastated. I know specifically that board of directors of Studio Ghibli is very very sad about it, and they allow us to represent them together with our partners Kitsugi Global and Aaron Shift and Fox. Probably we're still in negotiation right now to represent them against OpenAI and see how we can protect heritage and legacy of manga and anime, starting with Studio Ghibli, but it's more generic question of how we protect our IP, how we protect creators who are not in their midst of like using and giving away everything they worked for like years and years. The second part, I was like, okay, that's great. This is a great scandal, but I don't see the traction, don't see the reaction of it. And many VCs was like, okay, if there will be a number to it, that would be great. And I remember that I put this potential risk of one IP infringement. It's about 150K. And I did the calculation with my legal team, and we were like, okay, this is around that. And suddenly there's another scandal outburst. Universal and Disney um, claims they're basically going to the court with Midjourney against Midjourney, and their whole idea of that they have 199 IPs in Disney, including our beloved Lucasfilm, Star Wars characters, and many, many, many
What
others.
was the round number that they came up with?
$29 million a lawsuit against Midjourney for 199 IPs, meaning that cost of one IP infringement is exactly 150K. So I don't know how that works, and that happens for us like during all our career in CopySight, and it's just less. We're building this product. We incorporated a year ago, but it's like more than less than a year we're building this product, and we already have like 3 or 4 big cases of like predicting the future, predicting like how U.S. Corporate Office will react, how this new trends will appear to reveal itself. So we kind of are seeing this interesting predictions coming to life with those lucky coincidences. I don't know. And the next one, now my client and my partner Warner Brothers suing Midjourney and many other models, including 3 Chinese models for IP infringements. We just looked at that case, and there's many, many other IPs, including Batman, Scooby Doo, and Rick and Morty, and many, many others. So the lawsuit will be even bigger from where I see it. And what happens right now, we have a number, we have huge settlement deals. The biggest settlement deal in IP history is $1.5 billion settlement of Anthropic to Times and like some other people
And this is just the
who's
beginning, I think. This is
it's
just
just
the
the
beginning.
beginning. It's just $3,000 per infringement in case of like text, using text and articles and books. But in case of scale of it, it's become the biggest loss, biggest settlement. 1.5 billion. I want to repeat it. It's a huge number. So the risk is real. The thing is absolutely real. The Wild West becoming not that wild, and it's a new hygiene. If you use and utilize AI, you need to have, like you washing your hands as a business, you have to have something like CopySight on your back, checking every piece of content automatically, providing you a risk score, providing you a potential documentation, in this case, potential US copyright registration, but we generate you as proof of certificate, proof of creation certificate that you can use with US Copyright Office and have your AI works protected. And you can now finally own them. How we do that, don't ask me, it's our secret sauce. But in this case, we already obtained two cases. We've submitted two cases to US Copyright Office of AI generated work, and we got two cases of positive reaction. We have two registrations with the US Copyright Office for AI generated work. That
I love that.
means, and
I
this is
lo-
only, we're one of the first companies in the country make it. I think our one of that case we started a year ago, so it was like maybe case number 7 in the country that was not done manually.
I love hearing that, and I know how hard your team and you work to spread the word and let people know that you guys exist. I also am very well aware of the fact that some people may consider you lucky being in the right place at the right time. I think about it a little bit different. I think you create your own luck by actually being prepared to, achieve and actually
Yeah.
deliver a product at the right time and the right place. But one of the things that a lot of people come to me and ask me, what is a good startup to invest into? What's the next big thing? What's the current situation with CopySight in terms of investment? Because this is one of the things that I want to make sure that this channel and this community, hopefully, of people that
Mhm.
are watching, understand that there's a place to be able to be inspired, to learn about new things and new
Yeah.
technologies, but also to have an opportunity to invest and actually make money.
Mhm. I do think that's a crazy opportunity. It's a more than $1 billion business. We have almost $800 billion dollar market to serve. We have like projections to get to 70 million ARR in just 2 years from now. It's quite impressive. I know that there's like people always looking for another cursor and another hockey stick here and there. It is, it's on the very conservative prognosis. It can become a new a new course of like IP landscape for agencies, IP law firms, for gaming studios, entertainment studios, and media companies, whoever produces content, including influencers, including people who wants to protect their likeness. That's very, very relevant, and it's a huge market. The whole market is not yet even, you know, established, so it's may become even bigger. When we're talking about CopySight, it's not just an IP scoring monitor, or it's not just a proof of creation certificate generator. It's actually an IP marketplace with potential payments, with potential deals for IPs that happens automatically on the platform using different AI tools and creating the whole infrastructure for that. Um, so in terms of like traction, I do think that you start not from like how much. I don't like we were so lean. We built a product in with just pre-seed round. We got backed by amazing partner from Antler VC. We got backed by MIT patent lawyers who were like collectively invested and help us with the patents and everything. We got backed by Hicksfield founder and other tech advisors from NVIDIA, where we developed the whole technology layer and patent this technology layer. And at some point we launched at June. That was our first operation months, and we tripled our ARR in 3 months, reaching just with 3 clients, reaching out like 220 k per month. I just invoiced another month of API access. We launched API access with for our entertainment studios slash enterprise clients. And we announced it publicly, our API in New York last week. And today we're delivering keys to our first clients and charge them much more than it was on the pilot. And with all that said, we just starting our seed round, where it's 2 million with 2 million round. And whoever is interested, I'm willing to talk about our, prognosis and projections and where we come from. So just one thing to say, we are on 4 clients right now commercially, or serving them for all our products. All of them are well-known and well-established companies like Agbo by Russo Brothers, some other AI companies, and including Warner Brothers, who is looking forward to onboard us commercially in the next couple months. We all work with them to the capacity to grow our ARR months over months. But in this case, what we launching in the next weeks is the self-serving pilots that will increase our client base from basically from serving 4 clients to 15 per month. That get us to a very interesting situation where we are having break even in just less than a year. We have 1 million ARR less than a year to the end of the year, and those things are pretty interesting.
I think it's important for people to understand. In layman terms, what that means is instead of you guys having to manually onboard any client can essentially onboard themselves and start using the
Yeah,
product right away.
yeah. That's the goal for now. And again, we are very early stage. We spend a lot of time and efforts to build the workable MVP and products. Now we launched the API access, and then we have so much to actually deliver and to build. So those things we're super hyper focused on things that gets us to the growth stage where we can show an amazing traction. And what we've done so far in just a couple months, I'm very proud of my team
I'm
to get
very
there.
proud of you guys as a whole, and I'm very excited about the product going mainstream. I'm very excited to hope that you raise your investment very quickly, because I know that's what's going to allow for the product to scale to deliver all
Mhm.
of the features that you have on your roadmap. Tell me what you're excited, either in your personal life or work related.
Like a next step or something like, or do you,
You could
I
it could be your personal life or work
yeah.
related. What's the thing that you're most passionate and excited about that's up and coming?
No, it's like as a founder, there's no like personal life. This is like CopySight is my girlfriend. We're dating successfully right now.
I'm very happy for you.
Yeah, I spend with her, and CopySight is her, is basically around 16 hours per day. So I do think that my excitement comes from building uh, amazing company that will protect rights of creators and IP owners, to build infrastructure to spare creators and fairly uh, compensate them for what they create and work, because we need them. It's not that I'm that, like, it's not just being good and doing this from integrity reasons only. Guys, we need creators. People have to create more things to train future VLMs and LLMs, and we need more content. We cannot only synthetically generate those things. We have to add to this a human touch and human sparkle. Like Rick Rubin was saying, there's the AI can do whatever, but it needs a intention. It needs to sparkle. It needs to this kind of little thing that
Needs to
uh,
have a soul.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm pretty sure we can do the mathematical terminology on that, but we clearly need to set up an intention here for creators to make more uh, talented content that makes VLMs magical. And my bad, unfortunately, is like clean models are great from legal perspective, are not great from creative perspective. People are just not using them. Their pros just don't like it. That's it.
Yet,
There's
yet.
I do think that to create a great content, you need to have a dirty model with all the IPs in there. But then in the end, you have to check as a business and that doesn't want to get in trouble and got sued. You just need to check it with CopySight. That's it. That's how it works. And and we do believe we saw it. Like people are just getting crazy in their sandboxes, and then businesses checking it and making it safe to use commercially, using our product. So I'm excited to deliver like video checkups. I'm excited to start working with major studios in Hollywood because I'm a big fan of movies and voting member of Television Academy, voting from Emmys. I'm watching everything. I am quite addicted to that thing. So I'm very excited to get closer to the industry of my dreams and having a great and ethical mission to protect creators on the one side, but also I'm very excited to get funded and get growing revenue and get money out of it because I do believe those things are synergetic.
I think they go one on one. Ultimately,
Mhm,
when you bring value, the money comes. I
mhm,
definitely, as I mentioned, will speak to a lot of my uh, entrepreneurial investor friends to make sure that they are aware of some of the things that's happening in the industry and see that this is an opportunity that's
yeah,
very early in its space to be able to really create an influence and bring value into the market. But I'm also very excited over our friendship. You and I met through a mutual friend of ours, Alex, at the
yeah,
Abanye in the middle of Topanga, and I am
yeah.
very grateful to you for the invitation. It was a lot of very interesting people that you brought together. I am looking forward to seeing how you grow within this a new venture, but also excited to see what other new things that we could work on together.
It's all coming up. There's so many news coming up, so you'll be first to know. I'll update you.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate the time that you've allocated for this interview. And I'm going to leave your contact information for Instagram so people
Mhm.
can reach out to you directly or through me. Either way, I hope that everything that you're planning comes to fruition, and that your relationship grows not only with your current girlfriend, but hopefully
Yeah.
in the future as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I hope CopySight doesn't hear that. My girl. So, okay. So thank you so much for inviting, and it was a great conversation. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you, Artem.
Great.